All right, so we're going to be talking about the new law that was just passed for small business owners. We are no longer allowed to acquire non-competes in our small business, which is kind of scary because usually if you have a good onboarding process and you hire people, you're going to have things that they sign, right? You're going to have non-competes, non-solicit, non-disclosure, all of that, right? And it just changed this week. So I want to make sure you are aware of what is coming your way. So first of all, this actually was brought to my attention by one of our well-oiled clients because, of course, she is nervous, right? She's training people in her company how to maybe become her competitor. That is scary as a small business owner, okay? So, the first thing that I want to make sure you are aware of is a non-compete is different than a non-solicit. Okay. So a non-compete is basically saying, and now they can compete. So they can leave you and go start their own business. They can leave you and go work for your competitor. You can no longer refuse them to be able to do that. Okay. That is really, really big, which is going to make us as the employer really want to make sure we know our employees are happy, that they don't want to leave. They don't want to jump ship and go on over a mile away from your business and go to your competitor, right? This is going to be pretty big. So I think I would actually be more nervous for somebody to go to my competitor than I would be for somebody to open up their own business. I think it's a lot harder to open up your own business, right? Than it is to just go down the road and go to your competitor. So you are going to have to, as the employer, make sure that you are such a great boss and you have such a great opportunity and you have growth opportunities in the business that they're looking at you thinking, I would never leave you. Okay. That's going to be huge. Now, I want to help you feel a little bit more calm about this situation because what you're forgetting is a non-solicit is different. So yes, they might be able to leave and go down the road, but they cannot solicit your clients to follow. Okay. So that is different. And I want to make sure you are aware of that. So non-soliciting, right, is different than non-competing. Another thing that you need to know that is different is employee theft, right? So stealing an email list and then using that to build their own business and compete with you. That is not legal. All right. So even though they can compete, they cannot steal, they cannot solicit. Okay. So these are things that you'll want to know. Now, I would say the biggest thing that I'm really going to be thinking about is making sure that I'm not cross training. And this is one of the principles we teach inside of Well Oiled is you don't want one person knowing your entire business. You don't want them knowing what's going on in marketing, what's going on in sales, what's going on in fulfillment, right? What's going on in operations. So you really want to make sure that you are hiring people for specific skill sets, specific roles. So they're not stealing everything from your company and just starting it over there, right? This is going to be a really, really huge thing to be considering, to be thinking about. Okay. So if you have questions, you guys drop it in the comments below. Okay. So I will say this, non-competes have always been like many, many people know they never hold up in court. It's really hard to sue somebody. People already knew that, right? Our team members, a lot of them are aware of that. So to all of a sudden have it in writing, like you can't sue anybody anymore for a non-compete, it's not as scary as I think it sounds for many people. Okay. So that's going to be my biggest tip for you is how much are you letting them see? What do they have access to? You do not want them having, we purposely have separate playbooks, separate handbooks for how we do things in each department. So one department does not have access to the other person's department. Okay. That is going to be a huge thing you want to be thinking about. Okay. So this is a great question, Alicia. Thank you for bringing that to everybody's attention inside of school, inside of our platform. I love just starting this conversation and figuring out where do we go from here? What makes the most sense? Okay. Now, Nicole asked a question about creating KPIs. Okay. So she said, I understand the concept, but I'm struggling to actually make them and track them. Okay. So one of the biggest things we teach inside of Well Oiled is we have a critical number that is our one big goal we are tracking. Okay. So that one number is the company's KPI. okay, the company's critical number. But then every single person on your team should have 3 to 5 KPIs that are in alignment and actually help get to the big number. This is where a lot of business owners start to realize, wow, my team is bloated. They don't actually contribute to the big number. What am I doing? All right. So you really want to look at those 3 to 5 numbers you've assigned each individual and ask yourself, are those 3 to 5? If they do that, if they hit it, will it help me, right, achieve the big goal, the big critical number? And this is where you really have to ask, like, what is she doing? What is he doing? And you might decide they're doing the wrong stuff, right? So this will be really interesting for you to see who is the most valuable and who is somebody that's an amazing A player, but you haven't given them the opportunity to grow the company because you've given them the wrong KPIs, which stands for key performance indicators. So everybody in the company has 3 to 5 metrics. Now, Nicole, you are inside of Well Oiled. So if you go into our training information and you go to our KPI spreadsheet, you're going to see all of my company's 3 to 5 KPIs per role. So look at those and let that kind of spark ideas of where you could take it or what you could do. And then if you can't figure that out, please ask your coach. We're here to support you. Okay. So that's a big one. And we actually had quite a few KPI questions come in. It is, I think, one of the most crucial, like if I could only tell you one strategy to blow up your business, it would be KPIs. Okay. Now, it's not surprising that it is one of the more complex ideas, strategies, right? Like if it was easy, everybody would have them, everybody would be doing it, everybody's business would be exploding, right? I will tell you, we hit the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in America this past year. And I'm telling you, it's because we have dialed in our KPIs towards our critical number. So when everybody, like an army of people on your team, are all heading for the same thing, it's a whole lot easier, right? It's a whole lot easier to have that rapid growth. Okay. So that's big. All right. I had a question about employees versus contractors. Okay. So they want to scale the team and they're asking, do I bring on more contractors? Is there a pro to that? Do I just go employee route? What do I want to do? How do I want to do this? Okay. So I do have probably 80% employees on my team. Okay. Most of the people that work for me, the studio probably has like 95% employees. And then Well Oil probably has like 80. Okay. And there's just like, the reason I'm so pro employee is because I want to grow these substantial businesses and I want as many full-time people on my team as possible because I don't want them distracted by another business or another job or another, you name it, right? So when I can hire a full-time employee and I'm like, everybody scrap what you're doing today. We are switching gears and doing this, right? So for instance, this is a huge thing. So our Instagram account on Monday morning, we have 97,000 followers. Our Instagram account on Monday morning was shut down, okay? If I only had contractors working for me, nobody would have been able to just stop what they were doing and like move to the next thing, right? So because everybody is a full-time employee, we were able to say pause on XYZ. We are strictly focusing on this. Does that make sense, you guys? It is literally the reason why I say go employee. I have contractors. I love my contractors, right? But I'm also waiting in line. Now, sometimes it doesn't make financial sense to be able to have somebody full-time in a specific role, which is why we have contractors, okay? So let me give you an example. My Facebook ads company is a contractor. I would have to spend a gazillion dollars for them to like come in-house and work for me full-time. They also wouldn't have enough to do with 40 hours. Like you don't need to stock my Facebook ads for 8 hours a day. Like it just doesn't make sense. So it's not that like if you could give me a full-time employee for my Facebook ads, I would take it in a second, right? But it's more of a financial reason of like, it doesn't make financial sense. Now, could I afford it? I could afford it, but would it be a revenue generating role? Probably not. Like just because I have the money doesn't mean I should spend it. Okay. So with you specifically, like pros and cons, it also is how are you treating these people? So I had somebody come into Well Oiled before they came in, and they said on their consult, they said, well, they're all contractors, but we kind of treat them like employees. And I was like, oh my goodness, like that has to stop immediately. Legally, you cannot treat an employee or a contractor as an employee. Like you are going to get audited. You are going to have to pay back pay in taxes. It'll be bad for them. It'll be bad for you. Okay. So it's not about what do you want. It's about which one should you actually be using? Which one should you be hiring? Okay. So I believe in module 3 in Well Oiled, we do talk about the pros, the cons, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Every state is different. It is your responsibility to know the rules, right? You have to know, what does my state suggest, right? California is one of the strictest states, if not the strictest. And if you do not know your laws, you should be spending time consistently updating yourself, or you should have a great lawyer that specializes in all things employees, right? So that they can tell you, hey, this just changed. You need to know you're doing this. All right. You don't get to be naive or play dumb and say, oh, I didn't know that. I'm a new business owner. Or oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. They don't care about the I'm sorry. It's like, well, that's a shame you didn't know. And here's your bill for the last however many years of back pay on somebody they believe you should have been paying taxes on. Okay. So a lot of times people think it's up to me, the business owner, and I'm going to decide. No, you get to decide how you want to treat them. And then however you treat them, you have to follow the law of what the government is saying. You must, like, this is what those people are. Okay. So go to your state website, look up the 1099 contractor laws, look up the W-2 employee laws. You're going to read those definitions and descriptions and go, oh, wow, I have contractors. Oh, wow, I have employees. I might be paying them one way, but the government, the law is saying it's actually this type of person. Okay, so that is something really, really important you want to be thinking about. Okay, the next question that came in was from Crystal, monitoring hybrid or remote workers. Okay. So ever since the pandemic, right, remote work is taking off. Everybody wants a remote job. People that have been working in a 9 to 5 their entire lives is like, wow, remote sounds amazing. Now, here's what the bad part is remote sounds like, oh, you work from home and your kids can be running around and pets are like needing you and all of this stuff, right? So a lot of the education has to come from us, the employer. Okay. So like, for instance, I had somebody say to me, yeah, I can make the meeting, but I will be driving to my kids to school during that time. So I'll just be in the car. Okay. In what world would you be able to say to your boss in a 9 to 5 at a physical location, by the way, I'll be skipping every morning meeting because I have to drive my kids? You wouldn't say that. You would take your kids to like, the early drop off, or you'd get somebody else to pick them up. In no world would you just skip the most important meeting of the day, right? But in remote, they're like, oh, I'll just log on my phone and I'll set it up in the car. No. Okay. And I will tell you, in the beginning of this world, of this, post pandemic, I wouldn't think to say these things. So I would say, hey, we've got a meeting from 9 to 10 a.m. every morning. Is there any reason you can't make it? And they would just say, no, I can make it. And then I would hire them. And then there would be kids running around in the background. I remember one time, I'm not even kidding, the TV from a child was blasting. And the mom was like oblivious, thinking like, oh, he's fine. He's just watching TV. I'm like, I can't hear you. And because your volume's on, all I hear is your TV, right? So now we specifically say things like, do you have an actual home office where you will have time, like private time by yourself with nobody in the background, no sound going on, like an actual space dedicated? Okay. We can ask questions like, are you able to be fully present? Is there anything else that you're having to do? I've literally heard horror stories of people being like, the employee was homeschooling her child, like we're working remotely full time, but homeschooling her child all day. We are not paying people to homeschool their kids, right? So these are things you have to actually like get like specifics on. Now you have to be careful because you can't say in an interview, do you have children? Where do they go to school? That's not allowed. You can't ask like that. That could be discrimination. So you can't ask questions like that, right? But I can say, we have a meeting from 9 to 10. You will need to be in a quiet area with nobody else in the room, right? Like It needs to be just you, no distractions, completely quiet, not in a car, but in your actual working place. And a lot of times then they'll say, well, I do have to drive my kids to school, or my kids are still going to be home at that time, or right? And that's when we get to say, that's totally cool. Like most of our people in our company have children, right? So totally fine. I have kids too. So one of the things I do is I make sure that my husband's aware, hey, at this time, if they're off of school, I need you to watch them, or I need you to take them to school so I can be in this meeting, right? So early childcare is an option, right? Getting somebody else to come to your house. Like there's ways for them to do it. We don't have to say people, oh, you can't have kids. No, absolutely not. Like 95% of my employees have children, right? We make it work. We just have to make sure the expectations are very, very clear. Okay. You might have a mom who's about to have her first baby, and she thinks like, well, yeah, my baby can stay home while I work remotely. No big deal. If you've had a baby, there's a lot of like you'd be constantly distracted, right? You couldn't be on a meeting on Zoom and then baby's crying and you're going to ignore her for an hour. Not going to happen, right? So we have to say things like, when we realize they're pregnant, amazing, congrats. Have you thought about what you're going to be doing for childcare? What does that look like? What is going to be your working environment, right? And sometimes we have to really set those expectations of like, no, you're not able to be working, homeschooling your child and me paying you simultaneously, right? Like we are expecting you to be focused on this work. Okay. So this is a delicate situation, right? Know your laws, know your state, you need a lawyer in your state. Be really careful because a lot of lawyers right now, they are giving advice and they're saying, oh yeah, we can help any state, or we can help any, no worries that we're in different states. You need somebody who specializes in the state you are in so they can say to you, you can't say that. You can't do that. So I'm not giving any legal advice. I am making sure you've got to be talking to your lawyer so you know what's allowed and what's not allowed, and also checking your state's website. Okay. So that's huge. So I think it's just being very clear, setting expectations, right? Finding out what's going on, monitoring their output. So one of my friends had the homeschooling situation where this employee was very, very slow, and she replaced somebody. So when they realized like, wow, look at the output that's happening here. Why is she like taking, twice as long, 3 times as long as the last person, right? And they started to monitor what was going on. They started to inspect what they were expecting. And all of a sudden it came out that she was homeschooling all day, like 1 or 2 children. Okay. Which means she wasn't working on the business when she was getting paid, literally stealing from the business, doing something else, right? But thinking it's remote. They're not going to know, right? I actually interviewed a guy. He said he wanted part-time, and I said, oh, we're only doing full-time. And he said, well, listen, okay. He goes, he just got a job working for Zillow. Okay. And he says to me, it's remote though. I mean, I could easily do that. And he meant he could easily work both jobs full time and it would be no problem. And that was the biggest red flag, because what he was saying he was going to do to Zillow, he was also saying he was going to do to me, right? Zillow was expecting full-time work, and so was I. And he was like, I can do both. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal. Okay. So you want to be monitoring, what are they actually doing? How much output? And you want to get an idea of what is normal. So this person that figured this out already had experienced a good A player, right? The problem is, if it's a new person, you might be thinking, this is just how long it takes her. I don't know. Like I thought it would have been faster, but clearly it's not. You may want to actually do the specific assignment yourself to see what does it take. Now, big disclaimer, whatever it takes you, it will take them longer. Okay. So I don't want you thinking it took me 7 minutes. It should take her 7 minutes. No, you have to remember that you're the boss. You're never going to get in trouble. No one's going to question you. You get to do what you want, and you get to make full authority in the moment and just make up your mind. So you are faster because you're not questioning, is she going to like this? Is he going to say this is wrong? They're thinking, what are we thinking? Right. So they will be slower, but it shouldn't be 4 times as long, right? It should be a little bit longer because they may be trying to get it just right. Okay. So you may say to somebody, hey, listen, I only spend 15 minutes per day doing this activity. Let me show you how. And you could coach them to get faster. Okay. You might even say, listen, so it typically takes me 15 minutes. I've noticed it's been taking you 2 hours. do me the biggest favor. Today, I want you just recording on Zoom, share your screen, record on Zoom, just show me what you're doing because I want to help you get faster because this shouldn't take that long, right? And all of a sudden, you're either going to find somebody who's like, oh, shoot, she wants me to record myself. That day, she's miraculously faster. Or you're going to be like, oh my goodness, this is why they're so slow. They're doing this. They don't need to, right? So you'll be able to coach them and help them go faster. Okay. So I would say, like, we have a remote business in Well Oiled. I do have a physical in-person locations with my 3 studios. I will say most people are on site, but we do have a few administrative people on our team that do get to work remotely certain times, certain days. So we are making sure we monitor it there as much. Okay. What's funny is people think, well, I don't want people to be remote. I think they'll be faster if they're in person. Okay. But sometimes, you guys, sometimes when you're in the building, and there's people around and there's clients around, you're getting interrupted constantly and it could be slower. So we actually allow remote work for specific administrative assistants, people that work in the admin in our studios, because it's just quiet at their house. We don't have clients coming in. Like, we want our desk to be friendly. We want people walking in, getting a hello and how are you and communicating. So it's really hard to stick somebody in there and then be like, ignore them. We don't want them ignoring our clients. We want them being there to support them. So a lot of times we just put them in their home on a Friday, or they're in their home from 1 to 4 before they come into the office the rest of the night. They just get way more done. Okay. So I think there are many, many pros to remote versus in person, pros and cons to both specifically. Okay. All right, I'm going to make this be the last question because I am actually heading out. I am heading to Phoenix today, Arizona. We are doing a little meetup with some of my mastermind friends. So I think there's maybe like 6 or 7 of us, maybe a few more coming in and out for some dinners. And we are just hanging out for like 3-4 days, masterminding, talking business. This morning, Shanna, our sales manager, she posted this video for us to watch, and it was about how hanging around A players improves like everybody's productivity. Like, everybody becomes more efficient and just like skyrockets to being even a better than just an A player. And the reason for that is, like, when you're around greatness, like, you step up, right? So I really put my time and energy into being in rooms where, like, there are go-getters, right? There are people that are going to inspire me. There are people that are going to really make me want to be better, right? So you see me a lot of times traveling to masterminds and coaching programs, like in-person events, because that's what I'm doing. I'm surrounding myself around other A players. So I'll post all the behind the scenes on Instagram. You can follow me at Well Oiled Operations. I will be on there posting like a little bit of what we're doing this weekend. Okay. All right. Last question. We're going to wrap up. What must I look for? This is from Stephanie. What must I look for when hiring a marketing contractor or employee? Okay. So with that said, I would first, okay, I think marketing gets outsourced too quickly in business. All right. I think a lot of us aren't naturally great at marketing. We are great at the thing we sell, right? So for me, I loved teaching dance. Like, that's what I was good at. Marketing took me a while to pick up. 22 years in, I am an excellent marketer because I've been focused on it. I've learned it. I've had to like throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks and then figure out where to go from here. Okay. So don't give up marketing until you know how to do it so well. You really just need somebody to come in and keep doing what it is you're doing, or then eventually like to take it to the next level. So I did my own marketing, like the visionary of the marketing piece, up until we were at over 5 million in annual revenue. Okay. So I really do think it's a skill set you want to learn, you need to know. Okay. But when I'm looking for somebody in marketing, I am looking for a high visionary, right? I'm looking for somebody to come up with ideas, because at some point, you guys, I don't know about you, but I can be exhausted from making decisions, right? Decision fatigue is real. I am just like, oh my goodness. And now can you create this? Hey, Stacy, can you create this? And it's like, I don't have any ideas left in my brain today. Right. And it's really nice when you have somebody who's a visionary that you can play around with and say, what if we did this? And oh, what if we did that? Okay. What if you tried that? So I have a couple visionaries in my marketing department, and having these visionaries has just been so incredible to just get more and more ideas. Now, you can't just have visionaries or no one's going to want to do anything, right? So I would say if you're looking for one person to come in, just one person in marketing, you need them to be a good mix of a visionary and an operator, somebody who has ideas but will implement. So that's kind of where Bella, my social media manager, started. She was a little bit of both, right? And now before her, I struggled to find a social media manager that was good because now that I realized what was happening was I hired a high visionary. So she had all the ideas, but it was like, are you implementing them? Like, when are you going to do them? Like, she was very slow, very, very slow, but was just always coming up with ideas. Okay. High visionaries, I've noticed, don't work because they don't actually want to execute and like move forward. Okay. Then I had somebody who was a high operator, okay, a high doer, but she would look at me like, what do you want to do? What ideas do you have for me? I'm like, I gave away Instagram, not so that I would still have to tell her what to do every single day, right? So we really realize that this sweet spot is getting somebody who has a visionary in them. They are an ideas person, but they also execute. So that is the number one person you need when you only have one person. Now our marketing team, oh my goodness, I'm like trying to count I'm going to say we have like 6 people in the marketing team, maybe a little bit more. So out of those 6 people, I can have high operators and then high visionaries because the visionary can think of the ideas and sign it to the operator. The operator gets it done. But in the beginning, when you're just growing, you can't afford all these people, right? So you got to get somebody who can like kind of do both. And then what's nice is Bella was more of a visionary than an operator. So as she's been here for a few years and we started to hire more people because our platforms are growing, right? All of a sudden Bella could step into more of a visionary role and keep hiring operators to get it done. So you got to let them know, like, temporarily, we need you to do both. Okay. So I hope that helps. All right, guys. So definitely, I'll make sure we're going to be doing more of these lives. So keep an eye out on our platforms. We'll let you know when we're going live, where we're going live. And then my brand new Instagram is Well-Oiled Operations. So if you want to come check that out, go follow me on Instagram there. I'll be sharing a lot of different behind the scenes. I've already had some stuff this morning you may want to check out as well as I'm about to travel. I've got some good stuff on there for you. So, all right, guys, have a great rest of your week. I will see you soon.